court. We have a man who he has set fire to himself. A man has emblazoned himself outside of the courthouse just now.
A man set himself on fire just outside the courthouse where Donald Trump's first of 4 criminal trials is taking place. This took place while CNN was live from the courthouse. We'll get to that video in a moment. The individual has now died from his injuries, as is being reported here by the Associated Press. A very sad situation. There were, of course, radical beliefs and conspiracy theories that were tracked down to this guy. And it also is very clearly indicative of mental illness. I said this after the guy that set himself on fire related to Israel and Gaza. And some people in the audience were mad at me saying, no, there's a long history of self-immolation for political protest. Okay, the guy seemed deeply, severely mentally ill. And I would argue accomplished nothing for the cause. No one is even talking about it anymore other than me in passing now in the context of another guy self-immolating. So I think all of these incidents accomplish nothing and are indicative of pretty severe mental illness. Now, here is live coverage from CNN as this was going on. The reporter Laura Coates initially thinking it was a mass shooting that was taking place. It wasn't. Take a listen to this and just wild to see and hear this.
Oh, what do you say? We also are seeing an active shooter. An active shooter is in the park outside the court. We have a man who he has set fire to himself. A man has emblazoned himself outside of the courthouse just now. Our cameras are turning right now. A man has now lit himself on fire outside of the courthouse in Manhattan, where we are waiting for history to be made. A full jury panel is gone. We are watching a man who is fully emblazoned in the front of the courthouse today. We are watching multiple fires breaking out around his body and person. We have seen an arm that has been visible, that has been engulfed in total flames. There is chaos that is happening. People are wondering right now if people are in danger. I'm looking across the courtyard. There is a man racing to his aid. There is coats coming off to try to put out the fire. We have members of security details. NYPD is rushing to the scene. They are trying to come now. Officers are on the scene. A fire extinguisher is right now present, being put on this man to try to put out. People are climbing over barricades to try to separate the public, to put out the flame on this man.
So I think you get the gist of what was going on. And then ultimately we got updates from NYPD and quite a tragedy, quite frankly.
So the male that's involved in this incident, his name is going to be Maxwell Azzarillo. Right, he's a male. He's born in 1987. His driver's license indicates that he's from St. Augustine, Florida. What we know from speaking to other witnesses and family members is that he arrived in New York sometime earlier in the week. We have his car being in St. Augustine, Florida on the 13th. So anywhere between the 13th and today, he arrived. We spoke to family members today. They were unaware that he was even in New York. As the fire commissioner stated, he's at Cornell Burn Center right now in likely condition. So the accelerant that was used, it appears to be some kind of alcohol-based substance that's used for cleaning.
All right. We also did hear from the chief of police, Jeffrey Maddrey, about the incident.
We observe a male walk into the park. He walks to the center of the park. When he's in the park, he starts shuffling around his clothes. He opens up a book bag. From the book bag, he takes numerous pieces of papers, pamphlets out. He throws the pamphlets throughout the park, and then he pulls out a canister and pours some kind of liquid on himself, a liquid we believe is an accelerant, and he lights himself on fire. The male, he takes a couple of steps while he's on fire, and then eventually falls onto a police barrier and falls down to the ground. He's on fire. Another area in the park where some of the accelerant spilt is also on fire. Civilians, court officers, members of the police department, they run into the park. They make efforts to put him out. They use their coats, they use fire extinguishers. Eventually, FDNY responds. We're able to put the male, extinguish the fire, and from that point, we remove him to a Cornell Burn unit, where right now he's there in a critical condition.
Now, again, ultimately, the individual did die. And here's another comment from this press conference related to the subject matter that may have motivated this incident.
The pamphlets seem to be propaganda-based, almost like a conspiracy theory type of pamphlet. Yeah. Some information in regards to Ponzi schemes and the fact that some of our local educational institutes are fronts for the mob. So a little bit of a conspiracy theory going on here.
Rocco, Chief, any indication if he was here?
Also, apparently, the guy had previously tried to sue the Clinton Global Initiative for what he believed was some kind of scam they were running or something along those lines. So quite an incident. We eventually got back to Laura Coates from CNN, who once things settled down and the individual was brought to the hospital, explained what it was like to see this happening in real time.
We're following to get more information as well, but I just have to tell you, I have been a student of history for a long time. I cannot overstate the emotional response of watching a human being engulfed in flames and to watch his body be lifted on a gurney. Here we are, knowing that we're here to document history, but to know about what has just taken place. Boris, Jessica, what an emotional and unbelievably disturbing moment here in Manhattan.
Now, I have to tell you, whether this was someone setting themselves ablaze in support of Trump or setting themselves ablaze in an opposition to Trump, either way, don't do this. First of all, Trump doesn't care either way. Either way, you will make no impression on Trump, whether you're supporting him or not. Trump cares only about himself. And of course, secondly, say what people want to say about the history of self-immolation as a legitimate form of protest. It is hard to see these incidents, this one, the one that took place several weeks ago, as anything other than severe mental illness, which, by the way, if the point is to bring attention to X or Y, I also simply don't believe that it is working. It is time to start thinking like voters and to make sure that kids understand the importance of voting, how it works, registering, ballot initiatives, because so many kids just have no idea. That's why I wrote the new children's book, Think Like a Voter. I can think of no better time and no more important group of folks to try to reach. The book is now available at davidpakman.com/book, where, by the way, you can get the first 2 books in the series as well. Think Like a Detective and Think Like a Scientist. Really important stuff. Donate them to local libraries, classrooms, read them with the kids. davidpakman.com/book.